Howdy everyone. Thought I would go through and try to get this part finished up and actually kind of like a tutorial. Now this is some tricky stuff and I do fear it. I mean, built a lot of stuff and making this kind of thing, it's very noticeable and I don't exactly know how it's going to come out yet until I get digging into it. But the idea is to have these feet down another block and have some kind of plausible looking suspension holding it up. And then, of course, seal off the interior areas here. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I thought about it a little bit. And I think I don't mind how I started these feet, I guess. Um, there's like a couple blocks, like this area that's textured is the only thing that's left from the original over here. So everything else is different now. But I'm going to first turn off symmetry and we're going to do a little copying and pasting because what I want to do is lower these feet down a block to start with. So let's see. Not that there's much of these feet actually there or anything, but probably a little quicker doing this than rebuilding them. Oop, I want to cut and paste down one block, and then we'll shoot right over to the other side and get that done too. As far as I know, copying and pasting, it doesn't allow you to use symmetry while doing this, so you have to manually do each one or each side. But no big deal. Pretty quick process. Okay, so now if I had landing gear embedded in like down here, they should line up perfectly to the rear landing gear, which are at the bottom of that thruster housing. So, what to do from here? Do we want the feet roundish at the front, or do we want to chisel it out another block? I'm going to go with the chiseling factor. But another thing I keep on thinking about too is, of course, you have all these curves, and any of these higher polygon blocks add more to class size. And again, I'm kind of fighting class size. I don't want this to be excessive. And I like to have some spare class size so I can do lighting and other things or replace blocks that are really noticeable. So when I can use wedge-shaped blocks instead of curves, I do find that as a savings. Of course, this is still part of the hull and it's at the front of the ship, so I am using combat armor for this. And now I'm just trying to get a line on the profile. Basically, with redoing the side of the ship, I'm trying to get everything to the same type of angle so it blends together better, as I did not do that with the previous version of the ship. I just think this will cosmetically look better in the end. So we'll start with the blocks that don't cost as much. These wedge-shaped things, very low polygons on these, and that helps with size class. Not with price, though. So now the big debate: should this extend out further, or should I? There's some new options with all these transitions and little pieces like this. You can kind of round this off yet to some extent. And then another debate. I'm not really protecting anything, but it is the front of the ship, and it's a material decision. Like, should I keep this combat armor, or should I go the cheap stuff? But I'm gonna just keep it combat armor. I reduced some in some places, and my goal is to keep it about the same price and not well, same price or cheaper and not make it more expensive. Not that this was a, not that this is by any means a inexpensive ship or anything like that. It's not, but hey. So, geez, with landing gear, I've got some other. Oh, I just removed a block I didn't want to. I do that all the time when I'm, especially on the interior, when I'm starting to chop the interiors, figuring out which blocks I can replace with different blocks. I have a tendency to blow away a lot of hull blocks and have to replace them. And you know, and this door opening up constantly is just annoying. So I'm gonna get rid of that. It's gonna have to change anyway. Ramp, I meant. Alright, so I got some landing gear on me for now. Try to figure out where I actually want to place these and which ones I want to use. I've been kind of into these retractable type, as I don't want to see these things. And then that's another debate. Should I run 2 in here? It only really needs 1, but 2 is, I think, a little more appealing. It's a large ship. It looks like it's got a little more meat there to hold it up. So I think I'm going to go with that for now. And this is the bottom. So let's just go with solid blocks here a minute. And then on the inside of this, I think I'm going to swoop it right back up the way it went on the other side. It took me a little while to find all these familiar blocks with the new block set. So I'm starting to get a grasp on it now and not feeling as uncomfortable as I was for a little while there. I mean, still this whole mechanism, it does waste a lot of blocks. It's a cosmetic detail. Honestly, if I was really going for cheapness, I could lower this area down here and put like a landing gear or a single one up front, but man, I just don't think it'll look that good. So that's why I don't want to do that. On the inside here, I don't think I want it to go up too. We'll just have it stop right there, and we'll transition into this piece. One thing I do, especially using blocks like this one, they have 2 different types of faces. Like if you notice the breakup I'm getting between the texture on the top and the bottom where they don't line up. I like that because now I can individually texture the bottom piece and the top part differently. Especially if the top's concealed, then I just get 2 textures I can put on rather than 1, which gives you a lot more options when texturing it. Man, should I combat steel? Well, I guess for now. And I wish I don't really have any parts or anything to put in these. Before they used to house a bunch of little thrusters, and they're not doing that anymore. So they're just kind of like just landing gear. Pretty simple. So now off the back, how do I finish this off right? And you know, that's something maybe here I ought to change too. Rather than that wedge there, let me try. No, that's not good. And I'm not quite familiar enough. There's a lot of funky blocks now, and but I'm thinking that there's going to be no blocks that would work between that shape and this shape, and then line up with that angle too. That's asking for a lot. But I'm going to just investigate here a minute and see if there's anything that does anything remotely close to that. And some of these look like maybe they could. Or maybe I ought to change the line on one if I discover something new. Okay, so these have a right and left. And I think I did it backwards. I will say it does get tricky with these blocks. So I want this angle. No, that's a 3/4 block. There's nothing I'm gonna. Nah, none of those transition blocks are gonna work there. So what do I do if I want this to smoothly go back down at a slant here? I think I'm gonna have to forfeit that slant. I think that's the deal. Just not gonna work out. No, not that block. This block. With all the new blocks, it's cool because you can do more, but it's also trickier to use a lot of these new blocks. They're a little more complex and designed for specific places. So what if I curve that way now? So I kind of wanted it wedgier on the front, but not the back. In fact, this is it. I'm going to end it right here. I guess for now we'll keep it simple and see if I can't find some different blocks to use that could enhance the looks a little bit later. Just to keep things even. Now off the back of the feet here, keep on thinking that maybe it could benefit from something, some kind of decoration. How would I do that? Here, let's get rid of this back and see. Take a look at the new blocks again and see if there's anything that would work. And whether it works or not is another thing, if it looks better or not. And some of these are really funky, very specific angles. So that gives you this little bit of a ridge line right there. Does it look better or not? I don't know. But I was actually kind of wanting it to angle up like that a little bit, if possible. So, what about this? It's kind of neat. Matches this angle, gives you this little bit of a lip here. Of course, it's not blending with this part right now, but that could be fixed, I think. Yeah, so if I just pop in, what is it, this block. But then you've got the transition to the front, and I know I cannot do this angle at a 22.5. There's no blocks for that. So it's going to have to go to probably this full block before it returns to that. So I probably ought to just bend this back out right now. So something like that. Okay. I think that works good enough. So on the back here, we can run these. And then we'll taper this back down in here. But at what point? Probably should stay uniform to that. So here, and another one of these guys. And see how the texture is all the same going across his face. Don't want that, so before I even place it, I'm going to rotate it. Now if you're dealing with steel blocks or carbon substrate, you can't see the line, so it's kind of like maybe it's right, maybe it's not, and then later when you're texturing it, if you care enough, you could rotate the block at that point. But of course, if you can do it first, you just save yourself a little time later. And after I get this part done, basically I got to backgrade my game to the standard Alpha 9 version, and I got to start doing some things with the space station, a few little tweaks, and then start the photo shoot of it, which is going to take a little while, and get all those screenshots ready. I do plan on releasing that tomorrow as an A9 version, and that's also a requirement for the challenge. So any debate I had is out the window. It's going to be A9 at release. See, I am wasting blocks here, and that does bother me, and I'm also using combat steel, which is expensive. So maybe I should actually go another row out here. And look at all this room inside here. Now granted, this is weak right above the landing gear. Oh man, I did it again. So this will be combat, and I think I might either leave this hollow or fill it in with like carbon substrate just to keep the cost down ever so slightly. Now I'm getting this idea that maybe I could do something a little different here. I could go with the old wedge block here. I tell you, even though with all these new blocks, I still anticipate using the old blocks most of the time. I don't know. I guess that works for now. I could put like a little vent or something here. Dress that up. That's kind of, I think this is doing the job mostly here. And yeah, some hollow areas here. Tell you what, I'll just dump in some cheapness there. But we'll keep the outer layer combat steel for now. Well, probably always stay that way. And I use very little curves or anything on this too, so that should not be much of a size class bump. If this was all rounded edges, it would jump up far more. So, now how to make a mechanism to connect this. And holy air tanks. I'll try to keep those in place if I can. So if you had a suspension here, what would it look like? Could like try to come up from there, maybe on two parts, like here and here, and then make a like a shock or something in the middle. But this block's got to go now. Yeah, probably that one. And also, I believe this is going to have to come up and join up here. And that line doesn't really line up with anything either. I'll tell you what, maybe what I should do is fill this area in to see where everything comes out at for now. How far would it come out? To like here. Okay, I think that works. And it looks like there used to be a wall here. Oh, no, I can't do that though. It's gonna have to have a bottom. So let's switch the block to this. Kind of a ridge line there. Oh man, across the whole side. I can't do that either. If I want to keep those air tanks there, that is. So let's fold it out so it can conceal the air tanks. Some. Yeah, I think that could work. Okay. Wedge that in a little bit. See if I can. Yeah, I think I can cover that up. I think I almost want it to come out another block though. I'm trying to think about connecting pieces to this. You can probably understand why these kind of parts, they're fun, but they're tricky. But if you could pull them off and get it to work right and like it in the end, then bonus. All right, so then we're gonna wedge this back in here. Of course, that's not going to line up with this body line here, but that's an easy fix, I believe. We can just simply replace with full blocks. But I don't like this big bulky area there now. That's one thing I do try to do with my ships, although aerodynamics is not a real game factor. Just getting into like lure and everything like that. If you had a ship like this and it's flying through the atmosphere, as these ships will, I do try to simulate some kind of aerodynamics in the shaping. So kind of smooth on the front, not too many like abrupt walls that are, you know, straight up. I mean, a little bit, but yeah, I do try to kind of curve everything that way to simulate some kind of aerodynamics. I think it helps cosmetically in the end. But that's about it. Okay, so now here, got an idea of trying to get into a couple roundy shapes. Kind of make this try to look like it's on a hinge, maybe. Now I technically could do like a side shot kind of thing. And I know most traditional cars do not have shock mounts like this, but if you look at some exotic cars like some Ferraris and things like that, you'll see a different kind of shock system on some of those vehicles that actually are this direction, and they work out pretty good. Okay, so now I'm thinking that this should change to a longer shape. Wow, shoot, I can't quite fully do that because it's got to line up with this. Or does it? Maybe that indentation there is a good thing. Or maybe not. What else could I possibly use? Any hope of getting a new block to do something for me here? That could be semi-interesting. So I probably need right and left versions of this. And then I could switch back to this. And then add some stuff across the top here. Hey. Maybe. And now, maybe another new block. Can I do a transition from that and go back down? I assume I can, probably with the same block I used on the other side. And the inverted version of that. So I'm not so sure about my suspension beams there, but now I'm starting to see a very nice spot to put one here. with that. I kind of wonder if now this is a fully round shape. Here, take a look. Now I'm starting to get more and more into looking at size class adjustments. So we are at 857. If I remove these 3 blocks, 6 total with symmetry, and I go to this other shape, which will look the same, more or less. I think I'm a complete moron because I was so busy talking I didn't remember what it was. 857. Wow. Wow, look at that. 861. It jumped up by using the other block over this one. Holy smokes. Not cool. Not cool at all. So that's how you ramp up size class fast. That's a good point. I didn't expect that kind of impact. Let me just make sure I'm not like full of crap here. But it should jump up to 861 by simply replacing 3 blocks with this. And yeah. So those are very much not efficient. Good to know. Now check this out. Now some of these other blocks have a lot of polygons, especially when you get into the pipes. Some of these newer pipe pieces, like this one looks like it has a lot of polygons on it. So I'm going to stick 3 of these in here is just to see. Look at that, 863. So yeah, the simpler blocks, it's almost like it punishes you to use the newer, fancier stuff, especially if you're in a war against size class. If you're not, no big deal, but it seems like with just about every bigger ship, I'm always fighting size class. And it seems like the cylinder, the old traditional cylinder, is a better way to go versus using that newer block with the solid back on it. That is good to know. If I need to reduce this in size class a little bit before it's done, I might have to replace some of the ones I popped in other places, as they're expensive. Okay, so since we got the roundy down there, I don't want it up here too. Or do I? What if we look at an alternative block here? And I know this one's expensive too, because it has polygons. But I got to see what it's going to look like before I finalize things. Maybe. Oh, wrong one. Ah. Okay, I forgot how to rotate blocks suddenly. Darn it. There we go. Yeah. No, I don't mind that too bad. I'm gonna debate. Let's see. Let's just fill in this top area and see what we end up with here. this up. Now to transition from that to this. And should I change the body line here too? Don't know, but I'm gonna try it a minute, see if I get a little better alignment on it. We did that here, and then ran this between the two. Okay, so that's a little bit better. Now what I don't like currently is this flat area facing forward. What can I do with that? Well, let's see what happens when we just kind of angle it in some more here. We could do a half and half, so leave like a wall there, and then do this. And yeah, when I was doing the side of the ship, it was kind of like the same process. I mean, it's fairly slow. A lot of thinking involved. So yeah. And you know what? We can run a couple wedges. I'm going to use this one because I think it's a good place to put some texture lights on the front of these particular blocks. Alright, so let's do something else here in a minute. I do this frequently too to see it nicely. So I'll replace a whole texture. So what does that actually look like on the side profile? Well, hard to say because I need to fill that area in yet too. It's a little jaggy in this area though. Not quite as smooth or streamlined as the other parts right now. Well, yeah, let's build this back up here a minute. Figure out how this is going to go. I'm thinking to start with some wedges again. Obviously, I use these old traditional wedge blocks. I mean, excessively. It's pretty much my shaping blocks. Everything else is just alterations to that shape, I guess, with the other blocks, but oh yeah, these poor undefended air tanks up there. Oh, and that looks stupid. Actually, this was supposed to be replaced already. Okay, that's right. We only got the one down there. this. No, actually, I'm wrong. This is not a good place for texture lights. I didn't even think about that, but you're not going to see them because this is in the back. Bad place for texture lights. So what if we just went simplistic and ran a solid block there? Almost like it, except again, I don't like this big squarish edge. Okay, hybrid. So one of these, and then so a partial edge, but then it needs to be full there. So reverse this. Like that. Still not happy. I think it's a little too scrawny here, and looking now at the side profile, almost looks like they should be set back, tucked in there a little bit better. And maybe, don't have too many real world examples to, see how feet are mounted to the bows of ships, since they don't have them. So it's almost like this whole mechanism here, if it tucked in and back, and maybe if I, but I tell you what I don't like right off the gates is this looks a little too squatty up here. How do I fix that? That's not cool either. Just trying to get this like a line here so it's not like a solid square looking at you. Maybe I should go the other direction, but that won't line up with that other part. It's on the inside here. Technically nothing, so I could easily put a block there and cover that up. Does look a little bit more mechanical this way. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't like the feet on this one either. It's not like I thought this was a killer looking design. I really didn't know how to do this, or what I was doing really. I just screwed around until I came up with something, and I got the same idea. Well, I'm not totally sold on these feet, but you know what? I really think that idea of bringing them back a block, I think would help. So, more copying and pasting here. It's gonna screw this up too, isn't it? Of course it will. Alright. Slide you back to there. So what does that look like? Make a little better. Maybe if I change the back angle of this a little bit, maybe slant it out to this angle, another block. I think might fill that in nice. Let's get the other foot moved. Okay, as in the front, that really didn't screw up the profile up here too badly. Oh yeah, it did. Okay, so you're gone from there. And then we'll get a new pipe in here. That's about worthless now. Any place that I can use just a square block, I typically will go for because of two reasons. One is size class and the other is hit points. But I mean, obviously I use an awful lot of half blocks and other things too, but if there's no reason to, then don't use that. If you're, of course, in a fight against size class. Which if you start building bigger stuff and you want to keep it a particular size class level, it's bound to happen sooner or later. Okay, so then I wanted to freak this out and try a different angle back here. I don't even know how long this video's been going on. I don't know if it's been that long yet, but get the idea on how much time you can just put on just doing just something really small like this, like one part I'm really working on. Tricky part though. It's a tricky part. So I did like how I had these blocks in there, but now I fear they're gonna have to go bye-bye. Do I take it back too, like I just did here? I do like the fact that this now is matching the same angle that's right above it, so I do think that fits better. So, yeah, probably keep that, but that's gonna have to go, and that's gonna have to go. I want to get some kind of bevel on the bottom of these feet too, if possible. I just don't know quite how to do that yet. So I'm gonna just skip that for now. Oh, and that's totally screwed up there too. Okay, we don't need that. shape better now. Oh, I lost my landing gear. Oh well. But I will say, this whole front area is pretty wasteful. But I think that's just what's going to have to take place. Yeah, I think it's starting to look better. Now, if I could only find... See, with all these new blocks and these neat edges, what sucks about all of them is they're 45-degree angles and nothing else goes to 22.5, and that's what this whole ship is based around. So using those won't line up with any of these curves here, and I haven't seen any alternatives. Despite all these bazillions of blocks, I found nothing that seems to work yet. Or maybe it's just my knowledge of blocks isn't quite there yet with all these, but I guess the objective, what I'd like to do is find a alternative set of blocks around the bottom to give it some kind of lip or something like that. Maybe a little curve. But how could I do that? That's a little too extreme. I didn't want that big of a curve. How about these very slight ones? Now, wow, they're 45-degree angles again. Just does not work. Okay, let's go more old school then. I will break it up by doing block breaks. Maybe not that one, but get like a couple things in there like that, maybe. Maybe even in the center too. And on the inside's pretty darn boring. I am pretty sure there's no block that would fit these dimensions either. Pretty sure. But what about this? Not entirely. That's too big, that's too small. About this one. You know, this could technically work if I change the line a little bit. But it ain't gonna work very well on the other side. Oh, and then I get this too. Never mind, never mind. Now it would be this one. That's another option too, to leave a little line there and tuck it in a little quicker. Doesn't work with that, but that's okay. Maybe on the outside. Do that again. I don't know. That's not going to line up right if I use the bigger block there. Just see what happens. of jolts out extra far on the one side. And then, yeah, the back here can't work that way either. It's a little bit too chaotic, I think. Okay, so get rid of that. And we'll just follow the angle from here. That looks kind of silly too. Okay, so you're out of there. Let's go back to... They're pointy. um, okay. I'm going to try one of these new blocks in here was one of like the regular wedge shape, but a little dealy on the end. And I wanted to see, oh, rotate that the other way. I wanted to see if I could use that a little bit. And actually, I think there's transition pieces for it too. Yeah, these guys here. So what are we looking at? Okay, so that comes down just a little bit there. And then there's the inverted version of that. Ah, that could work. Simple enough. And pop in one of these in the center. Gives a little bit of something. And then we'll go with the traditional blocks again and tuck this back in. Or do I want to tuck it back in? Yeah, I'm going to have to. Okay, so now on the back, got an idea here, a little bit different. Make a ridge line again. So we'll start with, oops. Do that, and we'll go to this block. Ooh, but that's not going to line up nice with that block. So what do we got here in transition blocks? Anything at all? It's not, is it the same angle? That is the same angle. And it tucks in. That still ain't doing what I want it to do. Yeah, a lot of these. But they all kind of are going to a square edge and nothing's going to this edge here. Yeah, I think I'm going to just have to go back to the same old blocks again. Been trying to incorporate this new stuff, but it can be challenging. Backwards. No, that's not cool either. Goodness. Just not finding a good solution for this one right now. Oops. And that, of course, doesn't bend at the bottom. Kind of jagged there. Man, I don't know. I do like keeping this this angle here on the inside, and I've been trying to preserve that, but that doesn't mesh well with this angle I've got over here. And it's not particularly centered either. I could bring that in. I think I'm going to have to just do something like this. It's the only thing that seems to work. But man, I really wanted a slant right here. Well, what if I just left that ridge there and called that good and popped in half blocks here. And maybe one of these new ones here to line up with that. And just smack in a regular block there. Yeah, I can kind of deal with that. It's not so bad. Alright, so now to fix up in here. Now, do I want to keep a line there, or do I want it flush? Go either way. I think let's try flush first. So that, yeah, that's a nice angle there. And you know, yeah, kind of digging that. What about, whoops. Okay, so I can't actually put a block in this part because that's interfering there. Could do this though. That gives you a nice little ridge line there. Actually, before I replace the textures, let's reinstall these landing gear in a minute. And let's say we have one there, and we'll space it out. Yeah, one here. Actually, half tempted to just leave that out. It's a little nice place I could dump something like that. Okay, well, I think we're getting there. scenario here a minute. Spawn something in. Oh, the RCS changed. Oh, hey. Oh, it's killing the power. Crap. What the heck is going on here? Just testing the landing right now. Okay, so yeah, we got good alignment there. Before I forget. Yep, look at all those. Probably shouldn't have put that on a hill. The question is that any kind of improvement over the existing landing gear or not? No, I'm kind of looking that I probably ought to space these out a little differently too. It's a little sleeker. I give it credit for that. This is a little, that's jaggy here. I think I'll probably do a little something here to cut down the jagginess, and then maybe a little bit of tweaking here to try to smooth out these shapes here. But other than that, I think it will work. I think it's acceptable. Like I said, I never liked the original landing things up front either. In fact, these look like they stick out a lot more than what the new ones do. And that was kind of the point. I kind of wanted to keep these a little more not so out there, I guess. And that part's been accomplished. It looks like they would actually work. You know, maybe I should try to get some kind of piping up in here yet too. But yeah, I'll wrap this up on that. That's pretty close to what I was looking to accomplish here. Maybe not perfect yet, but I'll work it a little bit more. But I think that's the general idea. And also, this is probably one of the truest forms of seeing me build, because it's, you know, on the a lot of tutorials I'm just kind of going fast and not taking all the time to make it to go by really quick. But on this one, it's a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, and it gets complicated. And this is just one of those complicated things. I remember the first huge complicated thing I ever got into was building the legs for the mana core. Oh my God, did that take a long time, and revision after revision and revision. And at the time, I did it in survival. I had no idea about the end tool. I wasn't using symmetry, so I had to like place a couple blocks on one side and then like jump over to the other side of the ship and try to repeat the exact same pattern and keep on going back and forth for reference. And then after, like, I swear, like 4 or 5 revisions to the front legs until I found something that I sort of liked, and it still wasn't ideal. But man, that took a long time. That was, to date, that was probably the longest build I ever did. And I think I had a good 100 hours into that mana core. But if you're, you know, aspiring builder and building stuff, honestly, take on something like that. It's frustrating, it's annoying, but man, I learned so much from doing that ship. If you look at the ships prior to the mana core, they're almost like on a whole different level. I mean, my older ships were blocky and simplistic and this and that, and then the mana core was like, okay, we're gonna go psycho with shaping and design, and it was rough. It took a long time, but very, very valuable learning in that process too. And then since then, everything became easier. Now this stuff's still tricky. This is hard, but it's just now I don't, having that experience from the Manicore allowed me to build everything since then. And if I would have just stuck to simpler designs, like here, I don't know if any of you ever even seen this. My first my first release CV. Help if I looked under CVs. Oh Christ, what did I even call it? Oh, the Nebula. Yeah, Nebula MK3. First thing I ever put on the workshop. And yeah, at the time I was very proud of this ship. But if you look at the design of it, man, it's very basic. Didn't use much in fancy blocks or angles or anything. Now this ship worked. I used it in game. It was it's kind of the precursor to the Carapace and the Nomads. Same kind of design layout. It was when I first came up with this idea of integrating in constructors into the wall and having like a nice crafting area. At the time, I would keep the crafting area separate from the hangar, so you would actually go into a different door. And also in this time frame, there was no such thing as O2. So that's why the farm's completely open to the hangar. There wasn't O2. You didn't have to care. It didn't make a difference. But this was Alpha 5. And the big mistake on this ship is I put glass in on the floor and realized that you, at least at the time, couldn't dock on that. So I kind of screwed up the hangar. I never did fix it. Oh, bad me. So yeah, going from this and to the Manicore was a huge transition. This ship was probably took me about 10 hours to build, and the Manicore about 100 hours to build, like over the course of a month and a half. Now I was playing the game as I was doing it and doing other things too, so I mean, sure, some of that time wasn't all spent building the Manicore, but I had like bazillions of auto miners all over the place and resources up the yin yang, and wanted to spend them on something. So that's what I did. Okay, well, I'm going to stop with this particular tutorial, and I hope that helped a little bit. Still ain't perfect, still needs some tweaking, but hey, it's better than it was. So there we go. You all have a good day. Thanks a lot.